Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Boxing, you find a way to win, you find a way to lose. There's a little bit of buzz going on right now in the boxing world about Floyd Mayweather and Leonard Ellerbe. There's some concern that Ellerbe is showing up to a lot of events without Floyd Mayweather and suggesting that there's a rift between Floyd and Ellerbe, or that Ellerbe is taking more control of the Mayweather promotions, suggesting that Ellerbe is kind of overstepping his boundaries. But the thing is this, right? Ellerbe is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions. And I don't think a lot of people really know who Ellerbe is and understand his background. I think some people just see him as like a puppet to Mayweather, almost a personal assistant. And that's not the case. Now, I'm not a cheerleader for Ellerbe at all. I do feel, I have watched him over the years, and one thing I noticed about Leonard Ellerbe, he's very particular as far as what he says. He chooses his battles wisely. He's very specific about his appearance, and he tries to be as loyal as possible to Floyd Mayweather. Now, if there is a rift in Mayweather Promotions between Floyd and Ellerbe, it wouldn't be the first time. I think some people forget back in 2014, there were some huge issues with Mayweather, who was very vocal. He went out and went to the media saying that he felt that, people just grow apart. It's like a divorce sometimes. He felt that he and Ellerbe had different views, different ideas. Ellerbe wants to do things his way. Mayweather wanted to do things his own way. We were talking about that fight with McDonough, where the Mayweather's WBA and WBC belts were on the line, and Mayweather didn't approve of that. There was no communication. He talked about his father not being in the corner for his fighter to beat. Talked about his daughter, as far as the seating arrangements, not sitting next to her mother. And so when you listen to what Mayweather was saying, it sounded to me to be more of a control kind of thing, where Mayweather is Mayweather's way or it's the highway. Now, some people may say, well, look, Ellerbe is the CEO, Mayweather's the boss. Ellerbe should do what Mayweather says. But this is where people have to understand who Ellerbe is, okay? So Leonard Ellerbe was born in 1965. Father was a car salesman, mother was a maid. She cleaned homes. He ended up out there in Las Vegas as a novice bodybuilder, and also did some boxing. He was a novice boxer as well. That's how he was traveling to Vegas one day, and he met up with Mayweather, who was a young pro. Leonard Ellerbe was a novice at the time, and somehow Ellerbe got involved with Mayweather, helping him to raise his profile and kind of just help market him a little bit. Somehow he built a pretty sound relationship. Now, something else that people don't know about Ellerbe, and I'm going to come back to the whole thing about Floyd trying to just be iron-fisted and this is my way or it's the highway, and why that doesn't always work with a guy like Ellerbe. Leonard Ellerbe is an Air Force veteran. So when I found that out, that told me everything I needed to know about him. Not everybody is going to adhere to the core values and the stuff that is ingrained in Air Force members and in all branches of service. But there's certain qualities that you have. In particular, you really think before you speak. And to see how Ellerbe, when he gets attacked by some people, he doesn't misplace his self-government. He stays have a cool head. He's all about networking, building relationships, all about how you treat people. Because that experience he got in the military, especially with him coming off the streets of Washington, D.C., that helped him work on his temperament and made him realize that, the human capital is probably your most important resource. And so when I found that out of him, that explained everything I needed to know. Why he's always dressed so clean, why he's always well groomed, uh, and his character and his integrity mean everything to him. When you look at when Adrian Broner attacked him and was being very, disrespectful, he spoke up for himself, but he didn't go tit for tat. He chose the high road on that. But he did speak up for himself because he has a voice and no need to suffer in silence. But he did it in a way that I thought was very dignified. And when you look at what's going on right now, as far as him and the pride he takes in his position as the CEO of Mayweather Promotions and saying that I am the boss, I totally get why he's like that. And a lot of people would take that wrong and feel that, okay, he's overstepping his boundaries, and they create this false narrative that there's an issue between Mayweather and Leonard Ellerbe. Now, there may be an issue between Mayweather and Tank, but Tank's emotional. He throws a lot of stuff out there. Mayweather knows how to feel that. He knows how to not get caught up into it. But the thing is this with Ellerbe. You learn in the military to make your leadership priorities your priorities. When you're sitting behind closed doors and you guys are developing a plan of whatever it's about, whether it's a personnel action, whether it's something you're preparing for an inspection, or there was some legal issue that came up, and you're trying to get on the same page. You disagree behind closed doors, but when you go outside that door, you're all on the same front. And leadership priorities become yours, you become their voice. Even if you disagree, it is what it is. And it's hard for some people to understand. But that's something in the military that you learn. Now, if it's something illegal or immoral, then that's totally different. You got to go against the grain. If it's just you going against 1,000 people, nah, man, you don't do that. But, if just because you disagree because of the hours, or don't want to work the weekends, nobody wants to deploy, and just personnel issues. That's not enough. You know what I'm saying? You gotta just eat that. Have a conversation. Try to persuade. Try to convince whoever it is that my idea is better. My suggestion is probably the better route. But at the end of the day, if leadership says we hear you, but this is the way we want to do it. It is what it is. You got to do it. And that's what he does. He owns whatever it is. When he and Mayweather sit back and try to come up with plans of how they want to approach things, he makes his priorities his own. That's when he's like, look, you can talk to me. I'm the boss. Mayweather's not here. I'm here. I'm the CEO of Mayweather Promotion. How can I help you? And people are like, oh, man, it's a power bid with that guy. He's on a power trip. No, it's not. No, it's not. What do you want him to do? He's there to represent the company. He's the face of the company. He can either answer your question or he's not going to answer the question. But if Mayweather's not there, he's his voice. How can I help you? And that's a good quality about him. And I like that about Ellerbe. But I did not know he was an Air Force veteran. And the other things that people throw out about him, he's not gay. The man used to be a bodybuilder. He has a wife. He has 2 kids. He has a sibling. And he's just a very professional guy. Has a master's degree. He's a very successful entrepreneur. And he's just all around the kind of person I would want on my team, because he's loyal. And if you're doing something and he doesn't agree with, he'll let you know. He may not like it, but he's going to tell you. And that's something that is you just can't find in many people. That's an extremely invaluable quality. And that's Leonard Ellerbe in a nutshell. But as far as it being a riff over there, there probably have been a lot of riffs. But nothing to the point to what we saw back in 2014 with McDonough, with Mayweather cutting Rafael Garcia from wrapping his hands, to Ellerbe not being in the corner, to Mayweather saying I've outgrown him. Obviously, they work beyond their issues, and it is what it is. But Mayweather is very controlling, as you can see when they have press conferences. Sometimes you watch Leonard Ellerbe just kind of rub his hand across that bald head out of frustration because Mayweather just won't shut up. But, you learn to just take a deep breath and blow it out. And, it is what it is when you're the second man on the totem pole. So, Leonard Ellerbe, man, is a good for the company. And that's why you see that connection between him and Tank. Because Leonard Ellerbe is from Washington, D.C., from the same area. He understands. He grew up without, a silver spoon in his mouth. See, these are things people don't pay attention to. But that's why you see him at that meeting with Tank. One, he's the CEO, but that's why Tank is so comfortable with him. There's a common thread there. There's some common ground. There's no common ground with Mayweather. Mayweather talks about how he grew up and some ups and downs, but he didn't grow up in the gutter like Tank did, like how Ellerbe grew up. But at some point, they found a way to win and everything worked out. And that's why if you watch that relationship between Tank and Ellerbe, there's a closeness there. And that's why I'm telling you Tank won't leave Floyd Mayweather because, there's there's two things. No one's going to love you like your parents if you have good parents, right? But no one's going to love you like you love yourself. So when you're in a situation like this where you have to trust somebody, you can't trust no one but yourself. But also when you have somebody like Ellerbe who's probably very close to like father figure, uncle. We know his coach Calvin is the one who's really like the father figure, but who understands you, who's walked in your shoes, and who wants to see you win. It's hard to just walk away from that and roll your dice on a guy like Eddie Hearn, who's strictly business, strictly about playing the game, strictly about money. So Leonard Ellerbe has different layers to him, and that's why so many fighters are comfortable with him. What's the perfect example here is Mayweather and Ellerbe, and how the fighters are with Mayweather, and how they seem to be a lot closer to Ellerbe, is how it was with De La Hoya and Richard Schaefer. All those fighters love Schaefer, and it seems to be all those fighters really have a close relationship with Ellerbe. When it came to De La Hoya, when it comes to Mayweather, they don't seem to have that closeness. They don't seem to have that. And if it wasn't, and when Schaefer left Golden Boy has never been the same. It's never been the same. Oscar's had to do a lot more work. If Ellerbe was to leave Mayweather Promotions, that shit would fall apart. Because Mayweather can't run no damn. He can't run that show. Ellerbe runs that show. De La Hoya is barely surviving over there. He has people running it. But Schaefer ran that show. And it is what it is. These are facts. So don't expect Tank or any of those other guys to leave as long as Ellerbe's there. They seem to have figured out how to make sure they get people fights. But that was something they struggled with when they initially started. Is getting the big fights for all of their fighters. And eventually you've seen things fizzle out. The only one fighter you really hear about now is Tank. What happened to Badu Jack? What happened to him? What happened to all these other fighters that were over there, man? There was the one guy, man, now he's there working as a coach. Seeing his face, man. Can't remember his name, but he fought and got knocked out by a guy from California, the Hispanic guy. He hits hard. The Hispanic guy went on to fight somebody. He fought another hard hitter, man. Jump Molina, I think Molina. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. But anyway, what happened to those guys? What happened to Jalen Love? All these guys Mayweather was promoting, and what happened to him? So everything is really on Tank now. So, I wish the best for all these guys, man. I think what they're all doing is great, but when it comes down to it, if it wasn't for Leonard Ellerbe, Mayweather wouldn't be able to do all the things that he's doing because he could have a peace of mind that Ellerbe is there. These guys have been together for a long time, 20 plus years, man, and they've grown together. Ellerbe has really done he's the man behind growing that Mayweather Promotions into the business that it is, and he's done an outstanding job. Mayweather's done an outstanding job, but Ellerbe has a lot to do with Mayweather getting to where he got in his career, and a lot to do with where TMT Promotions is right now. I'm telling you, man, it's like you fill a tub with water, and it's a bunch of fighters in there. Ellerbe is the damn plug in that drink. Pull that plug, pull Ellerbe out of there, and watch all those fighters go down that drain. I'm telling you. So that's my spiel on Ellerbe. Man has a master's degree. He did box. So that goes back when he was talking about knocking Eddie Hearn out. So the fight would probably be very damn competitive because Ellerbe obviously has thrown hands before, and he has a naturally muscular build because he used to be a bodybuilder. So that explains that. He's 55 years old as of today. But it would be good to see him and Eddie Hearn get into a celebrity boxing match. That would be great. But Eddie Hearn got some skill too. Don't let him, with his kind of, misleading, non-aesthetic physique fool you. Eddie Hearn has some skills too. That'll be a good fight to watch. So Ellerbe has the degrees, boxing skills, was a bodybuilder, man was in the Air Force, and he just started from the bottom and worked his way up, and look at where he's arrived. So like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let me know your 2 cents on Ellerbe. Let me know what you think about Tank Mayweather. But Ellerbe, man, there's so many more layers to this guy. He should be commended. He's a good example. And he's a very private person, as you can tell, because you really don't see anything with him, his wife, even his kids, no one. He's just strictly boxing and TMT and Mayweather Promotions and his fighters. Outside of that, you don't see anything about this man. You don't know anything about this man. And that's the way you need to keep it. Keep your personal and private life separate from the business. And he does that, so I think everyone can learn a lot from him. That being said, shout out to all the veterans. You guys keep safe, and I'm in the breeze.